Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Corona Geek, here where we talk all about mobile app development using Corona SDK. I'm your host, Charles McKeever, and I'm joined today by Ben Wong, developer of Climate Clock, the beautiful, simple weather app that puts the temperature right on your home screen. How you doing, Ben?
Good, good. Thanks for having me.
Hey,
excited to be here.
Thanks for joining us, man. I really appreciate it, and I'm really excited about talking about your app. As if you couldn't tell by the number of questions that I sent you beforehand.
Okay.
I literally, when you say 20 questions, let's play 20 questions. I think I sent him like 23 questions, so there won't be any shortage of weather. Of Climate Clock talk today. And also joining us is Brian Burton, author and professor of, not professor of Corona books, but author of several Corona books. Brian is a professor down in Abilene, Texas, and he uses Corona SDK to teach mobile app development to a whole new generation of mobile developers. Hey, Brian.
Hello. Good to see everybody.
Also joining us is Ed Maurina, owner of Roaming Gamer LLC, where he develops libraries, templates, and other products for use with the Corona SDK. Hey Ed.
I don't get an upgrade to doctor?
You can.
Okay, doctor.
You doctor, okay, sure.
Thanks for having me today.
You can be Dr. Phil today.
No.
Also joining us is Dean Murphy, developer extraordinaire and all things geek. Hey,
yep,
hey Dean, how you doing?
Yeah, not too bad. Yourself?
Good, doing excellent. All right, so let's jump right into it because, like I said, I sent a whole bunch of questions to Ben, and so we kind of need to move along fairly quickly. Let's talk about announcements first. First of all, there is a new public release available for you to download of Corona SDK. So go out there and get that now. And also, last week, there was a fairly large announcement, I think, that there's now a Corona Starter, which is a completely free edition of Corona. And so if you haven't had a chance to check that out, woohoo! Woohoo! So basically, it lets you publish on all the platforms that we support, iOS, Android, Kindle Fire, what's the other thing? Nook, without having to pay a cent. So that's, I think, fantastic. You combine that with Corona Cloud, and you can do some pretty amazing things for $0. So that's really exciting. Also,
now, Charles, I got to tell you,
yeah.
I made the announcement came out on Thursday that the new starter line is available, and I went into my class to share that news with them because not all of them had read their email yet. And they were just so excited that this is available to them, that they can get started making their own apps, not have to pay anything, and start paying off student loans before they even graduate from college.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is a wonderful opportunity to get started, and I know a lot of people, this is what they've been waiting for. This will be tip the scales on which platform do I want to use. And, I know all my students are very excited to jump in and start developing their apps with Corona, with the new starter system.
That's really good to hear because I think that that's a perfect example of a group that's able to benefit from the changes. So it's good to hear that story. And we were talking about this before the show started. I mean, there's never been a time in history where you could have an idea, get it out there into the marketplace, and have the potential for making money and not even leave your house.
Right.
You don't need any inventory, you don't need any employees, you don't need, you know what I'm saying? You can do things, and simplifying the pricing structure really helps, I think, or really makes sense according to the way that Corona thinks. Everything is simpler.
Right.
Everything is simple to do. Everything is faster to do. This makes it where the barrier to entry is zero. So that's fantastic. And a lot of guys, to be fair, there's so many apps in the marketplace, and so many people are getting into app development that some people don't make any money, initially. And so you want to be able to have that free tier where they can get themselves established and then move into additional services and things like that.
Yes, this is just an exciting opportunity for a lot of people to get started. I did read a statistic the other day, and I haven't verified this, so I'm reluctant to quote it, but I did hear that 60% of apps that are uploaded have never even downloaded one time.
Yeah.
Not even mom and dad downloaded the app.
Right.
So that's pretty bad. But as we've all seen on the App Store, there's a lot of junk out there as well. It's about creating quality applications and then letting your friends know about it so that the word of mouth, creating the marketing, getting the word out there that we have some great apps out there, and you can be a huge success. You can be the next Angry Birds with app development and do it all with the starter for free.
Yeah, there's a lot of emphasis put on the tools, on the platform, on learning a language, on learning how to develop all these things. And I think for the most part, developers, whether they've had previous experience or not, they get the tool. When they come into Corona, they see all the documentation, they understand how it works, they see the examples. The one thing that I think that's not really talked about a whole lot, and that's why we try to talk about here on the show, is the marketing piece. After the thing has been built and put into the App Store, it needs to be talked about. You don't just have a baby and then tell nobody about it. You tell everybody about it, and you show them pictures and slideshows and all kind of stuff. So there's definitely a marketing conversation that has to go on after the fact. But anyway, it's just good. I think it's good stuff. And also, Pro's got a lot of great things that are coming. OpenGL 2.0 is coming. Yeah, there's going to be plugins are right around the corner. There's just a lot of great stuff going on. So I think it's a good thing. Also, I don't know if you saw that the enterprise stuff was also, there's like an enterprise pricing page now. So anybody who wants to get to dig more into the nuts and bolts of like Java libraries or existing assets or things like that, they can do that, and everything's there for them to take advantage of. So I think it's a good thing. The one thing I do want to note is, while we're here, is that basically the Pro version is going to have this thing where you'll have to go Pro if you want to do in-app purchases or analytics. But the starter is still going to have monetization options in it. So it's just a matter of what it is that you want to do. Not everybody wants to do in-app purchases. Not everybody wants to do analytics. The guy that did was it Grizzly Manor? He doesn't do analytics or in-app purchases, and he does very well with that app. So like you said, it's just about creating quality stuff, and then how you want to monetize it is up to you.
Yes.
Now, the other thing that I want to point out while we're here is that there's been a little bit of confusion around renewals. Everybody who was Indie got upgraded to Pro, and then on May 1st, the price will change, and you have to have an active subscription by then. But that doesn't mean that you have to buy 2 years worth of Pro subscription. So basically what it means is that by May 1st you need to have an active subscription, and then after that don't let your subscription lapse, because you can renew it for up to 2 years at the current price. So it's important to note that the only thing that you have to do is say, okay, if I don't have a subscription today, then I need to have one by May 1st so that I can take advantage of the pricing. The grandfathered pricing. So I don't know.
Get in now, save $150.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
Is that right?
You have to do the math on it, but
200,
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, 150. Yeah.
Right. Something like that.
Something like that.
So yeah, and I think if you look at the options out there, Corona's the best option. So all right, so let's move on to some other things here. The other thing that we need to talk about is that, and this is a fairly significant for anybody who's using interactive in their apps. Basically, we had to remove in the interactive SDK due to UUID restrictions. This is an Apple compliance type thing, and it will come back. The interactive portion of the SDK, that will come back, but it'll come back as a plugin. So for right now, if you need to you still use interactive and you need to update your app, then you'll just need to use an older build, the one prior to that being removed. So I think for anybody who's using that, that'll be a concern, but for anybody else, they probably won't even miss it or care. But it's worth noting. All right.
That's going to affect the new daily build that just came out as well, right?
You're right.
That would be in the new daily build. So if you upgraded to the new daily build, you won't be able to use the interactive.
Right. So you'll need to go back to.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you do. So.
What's that?
You do get widgets 2.0.
Yeah, exactly. There's a number of upgrades to this network 2.0. There's widgets 2.0. There's a number of upgrades in the daily build. If you don't want to, if you have to use interactive for some reason, again, and you need to update your app between now and the time that it comes back as a plugin, then you'll just need to use an older build. But if you don't need to update your app, or you can wait for it to come out as a plugin, then it won't matter either way. So, but it's worth noting because it has been removed temporarily. All right. So, and the other thing that we need to talk about is events. There's 2 events coming up. If you're going to happen to be in Tokyo, there's going to be one in April 13th and one on April 15th, and you can find that by going to the Chronolabs website, the homepage, and looking at the events that are upcoming, and you can get all the details for that there. There's also going to be on April 18th, there's going to be a Raleigh, North Carolina Corona SDK meetup. That group will meet. So within a very short period of time, we've got a couple of events coming up for you there. All right, so let's talk about one last thing here, and that is if you didn't see last week's Hangout, I strongly encourage you to go and check it out. It was number 33, and that was with Eric Kincaid. And Eric is the developer of Questlord, and man, I don't know about you guys, but that guy was energetic.
He was having a good time.
He was on fire.
Eric, he was on fire. That's a very good way to say it. I mean, he was passionate about Corona, about Questlord, about the community, about game development. I mean, you name it, he nailed it, and it was just a great interview. So if you get a chance, go back and watch that, because if nothing else, it'll just motivate you to either take your game to the next level, or build that app that you've been planning for so long on the whiteboard, and it's just good stuff. So speaking of excellent stuff, because I know that Ben has an excellent app out there called Climate Clock. Let's move on into today's Geek Speak and talk all about Climate Clock, because while it may not sound like a particularly sexy topic, it's an extremely simple app that does things extremely well. I'm overly impressed. I don't know, overly is the right word, but I am hugely impressed by this app. So let's talk about it. So Ben, what is Climate Clock? Give us the snapshot of what Climate Clock is.
Sure. Climate Clock came out of, I think, my obsession for hourly weather. I pretty much use a weather app. I wish I could say I use a weather app for like mountain biking on the weekends or something really cool like that, but I really just pretty much use a weather app when I wake up in the morning and I'm trying to decide whether I need a jacket, do I need to bring my umbrella today when I walk home from work, that type of stuff. So I was really into hourly weather, and for years the iPhone default weather app just kind of never really did it for me. I don't know if it's just my old brain or whatnot, but I had a really hard time thinking of hourly weather in a list format. I would see the list. I don't know if you guys kind of remember, I think iOS 5's default weather app, but it would list the hourly weather in a column format, so you could kind of see like at 3 p.m. it was sunny and whatnot. And I just had a really hard time wrapping my brain around that. It seems really simple, just having it in a table format, but I just thought there could be an easier way. So out of that, I was just thinking about it, and I thought, why don't you put the hourly weather in a analog clock format? It just seems so much more easy and intuitive for me to understand. So from there, I worked on designs, and that's how Climate Clock came about.
Awesome. Yeah, I love the fact that I can see the temperature without having to actually open the app.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I mean, because that's the, like I said, that's the first thing that I do in the morning is I check what's the temperature outside.
Yeah. No, I wish. I wish there was a way with iOS to actually change the icon. I mean, the stock Apple icon always says it's 73 and sunny, which is frustrating when you're in New York and it's 12 degrees. But yeah, I mean, I thought that was really important just because, and credit due to other apps that have actually done that in the past. There's a couple other apps that have come out with that feature, but I thought that was just a great feature, and I wanted to include that on my app. And that was actually one of the trickiest parts of the app. It wasn't a Corona thing really. It was just building the push server to constantly send out those updates, so you could get the updated temperature on your app.
Okay, is that something you had to put together yourself?
Yeah, I did. That was probably above my pay grade when I tried to do it, but it was kind of a thing that I was looking at. There's I think Corona Cloud now actually supports the push badge functionality. So if that was out, I probably might have looked into that because it'd probably be a lot easier than manually building it myself. But yeah, that was one of the trickier things.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons, one of the the motivations for having something like Corona Cloud is that you don't have to roll your own solutions forward. It's already out there. I mean, you don't have to get your own web server. You don't have to worry about maintaining it, keeping it patched, or keeping it updated,
Yeah.
or make sure that it's available all the time.
I mean, honestly, I don't worry about it too much. But the first few weeks the app was out, in the middle of the night, I would wake up thinking about the web server going down, and just thinking about thousands of people not getting their updated weather, and what do you do without kind of having a team of people to kind of support your web server and maintain it and keep an eye out. And I'm trying to do other things and build other apps as well. And it's going, knock on wood, it's been going great. There hasn't really been outages, but in the beginning when I wasn't really sure. Yeah, it was definitely kind of nerve-wracking.
Do you use any kind of third-party service to monitor the website to let you know if it goes down?
It's just a PHP cron job that's running on my web server that's constantly sending out these push updates, and it's been actually really totally reliable. But I do get email updates that it sends me just to make sure that the job went through every 5 minutes. So.
Okay.
And you can always check your own app.
Yeah. That's kind of the first thing I do too, as well, if I were looking for any issues.
Yeah, there's a good service out there called Pingdom that you can always set up an alert, and then it can send you an email to a box where you that way you would only get a message when there was a problem, as opposed to getting as a kid having to check something every so often just to make sure it's still running.
No, I should probably check that out. I think the issue is more maybe with the hitting up the weather API and making sure that's always, and also making sure it's just going through to Apple's notification service. But yeah, I'm gonna write that down. Actually, that's probably a good idea to check out.
Yeah,
check that out.
Yeah, it's a good service, and I think they have a free tier. And you can set up 1 to 3 websites or something like that, and it's really reliable. And they have an iOS app, so it'll not only email you, but you can set up notifications, so you get a little notification center kind of thing.
The other one that's like that. I mean, there's a lot out there, but there's one called Monitor.us.
Monitor.us. Okay, cool.
Yeah, and they have a free tier as well, and it's got an app as well on the App Store. It's pretty cool. If you go crazy and get real big, you can add a bunch of stuff for a little more extensive searching and API RESTful states and so forth. It's really cool.
Oh, okay, awesome.
Yeah, I've used Pingdom before to actually prove to a host that their service was not 99.9% reliable, which is kind of hard to do. Most of the time they will kind of put the onus on you to prove it. And if you can show them charts, hey, here's my proof. Well, so how long did it take you to develop this app then? I mean, if you had to roll your own server and all that kind of stuff like that.
Well, I developed the app in 2 versions. The first version didn't have the push service in there, and it was kind of a more simple version that I just sort of soft launched. And that initial version, I want to say, took me about 6 to 8 weeks, just kind of picking up Corona, going through all that, learning how it works. I actually originally wanted to get a developer to build the app for me, and unfortunately I didn't have a good experience with that. You know, typical story, deadlines being pushed through and all that stuff, and I was really trying to get the weather app up sooner than later. And so finally, I have a background in Flash, and I discovered Corona. Originally, I was going to build it just natively in Xcode, but when I discovered Corona, I was like, wow, this is great, because this is really similar to my Flash background. And then that was really encouraging, and so I picked that up, and then I actually felt like, you know, I could get this app up and running, and it was definitely doable. So yeah, but to answer your question, I think it took about I want to say 2 months to get the first version up.
Now, where did the design come from? Did you do that? I mean, you know, you said you thought about the design, but did you actually do the design work yourself, or did you do it?
Yeah, I did the design. I would consider myself more of a designer than a developer.
Okay.
And so that's why I was
think that shows. I mean, you've got a great design. You've really got a great user interface for a product that, you know, people think, oh, weather app. Okay, it's a weather app. But when you've got a really great design that completely changes how people think about and look at the interface, that makes it an entirely new product. You know, I'm constantly emphasizing to my students that it's all about the design. If you don't have a good human-computer interface, you don't have anything, and you've succeeded in that. That's one of the neat things that really sets your app apart.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
I mean, I definitely agree. Like, I think design is so important in the App Store nowadays. And I thought, you know, I came up with this design on my own or independently. I'm just kind of tinkering with it. But actually, after it launched, some people pointed out to me some other apps. There's actually 2 other apps that have been around that have a very similar like paradigm with just the clock and everything. And, you know, to be totally honest, I never saw them because they just never came up in the search results in the App Store. Unfortunately, at least one of them I don't think had very good sales. And, you know, not to knock the other app, you know, the idea, I love the idea, but the design was just not really, you know, spectacular. So and it really makes a difference. So just with the design and really the sex appeal, I mean, at the end of the day, people are going through the App Store, just the way your icon looks, the way your screenshots, that's going to be the decision maker for them, you know, whether they download it or not. So it's definitely important to have good design, I think.
Well, you know, the difference between a good designer and a bad one, I think, is that a good designer understands that they're working with a concept. You know, they're building, everything that they do has to support the concept. And then you have people who own Photoshop who think they're a designer, like me, and I can make something pretty, but I you know, designing something around a concept is much harder, you know, skill to achieve.
Yes.
And so I think, yeah, you definitely, like Brian was saying, you've designed. You can tell that it's been designed around a concept and not just made to look pretty. So that's
Thanks.
Yeah, it's definitely there. So with that, why did you use gestures and not menus?
You know, that's a really good question. I honestly don't even know how it would have been designed with menus.
Yeah.
So I guess gestures just seem a lot more intuitive. But there's also like a school of thought with UI design. You know, in general, I think, you know, gestures are a lot easier for users to use. You know, if you imagine like your users on the go, they're walking down the street. It's just, you know, doing a swipe from left to right is a lot bigger, quote unquote, target for a user to do versus, you know, trying to hit a button like right there or do like a series of precise motions like scrolling and then hitting a button. If I can just do like a broad swipe, that's just a much more general motion for the user to do. And you know, in terms of usability, it should be a lot easier for the user to do that. So to answer your questions, you know, I think gestures are just more usable in more friendly.
It seems
to people, especially.
It seems like you cut down your need to do localization as well, because everybody's weather's.
You mean in terms of?
Well, weather's universal to everybody, and gestures are intuitive, so there's no need to localize menu systems or words or anything like that.
Yeah, no, definitely it cuts down on all that stuff as well. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, and going back to your point earlier, that icons and visuals and things like that, it seems to me, I mean, there's a lot of apps out there that are, I guess, they're doing okay without a lot of design in them. But it seems like the very best apps have some level of design. Certainly the icon needs to be designed, but it seems like the more thought that's put into the design, just the better they do.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think, especially with Apple and also Android, I mean, design is such a huge part of those products. So it seems funny that, to expect to go onto the Apple App Store or Google Play.
Am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Oh, good. It's always good to be somewhere. You guys should see my expression on this end when the thing goes. I'm like, okay, good. Okay, so were we finished with that point there? I'm not sure what happened.
Yes, he just finished answering you.
Excellent.
But it didn't get recorded on your end.
Oh, good. So
your dial-up connection failed again.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So my dial-up connection. Great. So where did you? Okay, did you already have a data source for your weather data, or did you just say, hey, I want to build this weather app and I need to find a source, or were you you already had it and you knew that you could build it?
Yeah, I didn't know actually anything about weather sources when I built it, and it's actually something I have to pay for, unfortunately. Well, I mean, I totally appreciate the fact that it costs money because
right.
I'm using Weather Underground and I'm pulling a ton of data from them all the time. So good lesson though. I think in hindsight, this was definitely a passion project for me. It's just something I got a little bit obsessed with. I wanted to see it alive and working, but in hindsight, I wouldn't recommend to another person to build a weather app necessarily. I don't think it's the best way to retire young. And you have to pay a monthly fee for the weather API and all that stuff. But I use Weather Underground because I like their data a lot, and their API is pretty easy to work with. So.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. On the weatherclimateapp.com website, it just clearly says this is where we get our data.
Yeah.
I don't know if you did that.
And I don't know where the Apple weather gets its data. It says it uses a Yahoo weather, but Yahoo actually outsources, I think, to Weather Channel, but their data doesn't match up with Weather Channel, so it's really weird. It's this leftover data source that Apple uses for iOS. It's really strange, and it's always really off for me. So that was another motivation for me to build an app.
Have you ever seen that Dilbert commercial or cartoon where he talks about he goes to the boss and he says, hey, that project that we outsourced to India? And the boss goes, yeah. And he says, well, they outsourced it to Russia, who outsourced it to China, who outsourced it to us. And he says, do you know what that means? And the boss says, we should raise our rates. So yeah, I don't know how they get their weather information, but it's not always the same. Well, I tell you what. Speaking of which, I run on a regular basis, and I'm pretty in tune with the weather. I look at things like the temperature, of course, things like whether or not it's going to rain, whether or not it's going to, how windy it's going to be outside, because sometimes that can be a beating when you're running. And so I typically have used like the Weather Channel. I had their app on for 2 years. I had it on and I used it. But as soon as I downloaded Climate Clock, I was like, okay, this is much simpler. It's ad-free, it's intuitive, and it gives me everything that I need in order to do my activities. And so it's actually, Climate Clock has replaced my previous weather app for sure on my home screen. So
that's awesome. That's so cool to hear. Yeah, and I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I just like that. I mean, the other apps try to add all these things in, You know, here's videos and here's maps and here's all this other stuff. And I just don't think it's necessary.
Yeah, and that's always a challenge, I think, with software design, is just finding that sweet spot of features. I think that's something that Apple does really well. You know, they don't give you too many. They give you all the features you think you need, and they don't give you anything more, and allows their software to be just quote unquote intuitive feeling. But I mean, they're really good with the marketing too, because their products are so well designed and so sexy. You actually, lots of times I find like my friends, they're willing to make that compromise because they rather still use an Apple product, even though they might miss a feature or two, just because they'd rather have that overall experience. So
excellent. Yeah, I agree. It is about the user experience. So yeah. Are you storing any information locally? I mean, you pull it. You say you're pulling it all the time from the API, but I mean, it seems like there would be. I mean, things wouldn't change that drastically. So is there an opportunity to store things locally?
Right now, it pretty much just stores it in memory, just because the way it works, it doesn't, like if you exit the app, it just suspends it. It doesn't quit it, so it'll keep like the current weather in memory. And it's pulling the current weather every 15 minutes, so I actually don't store any weather locally on the phone. But I am using JSON just to store like the app settings and all that stuff from session to session. Okay.
Any additional features you're going to add in the future? Any kind of, I mean, talking about features.
Yeah. I have a big list of. I mean, I got a lot of great feedback from users, so I just have a big list that I'm kind of sorting and going through. And it's, you know, honestly, it's really, a lot of it is. I wish I could say I just had unlimited time and unlimited resources to really make it into the best app ever. But a lot of it is just economics too, and kind of, since I'm a one person shop, just evaluating the amount of time a certain feature would take versus like what the benefit is to the user and all that stuff. So a lot of it is kind of like. I guess the economics and the business side of things too, and just trying to see where to kind of spend my time on as well. So
gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. I don't know if you ever seen Marco Arment's the magazine. It's
right now I heard that.
It's an app in it's a magazine. It's an app in the Apple App Store, and it has a lot of the same style of UI as what you've got here. Like when I swipe over to the right and I see locations, you kind of follow the same style of UI that he had, and
okay.
And his whole thing with the magazine was all about it being simplistic, you know, just. And not in a demeaning way, but in an elegant way. Mm-hmm. And so you seem to have followed that same type of thing. And I bring it up because he had this whole podcast discussion about adding features. He had made the magazine just.
He does that to us.
What?
He's back. You're back.
And I'm back. Hey, where did we leave off?
Never quite left.
Never quite left. Where did we leave off? Did you hear me talking about the magazine?
That's what you were talking about.
You said he had a podcast?
Yeah. So he did his whole podcast episode where he was talking about keeping the magazine as clean as possible. Not to the point that at that point he hadn't even added pictures or anything like that to it. It was just about the headline and the content. And then when you went to the navigation system, it was just, this is issue 1, and here are the articles that are in this issue. And I mean, it was just very clean, very minimalist, and it was great. And it still is. It's still a great app. But he had this whole conversation about something as simple as adding features to the app. I can't remember what it was. It was like something as simple as like a terms of service.
Default browser.
What's that?
The default browser setting.
Yeah. You were listening to those podcasts, right?
Yeah, I'm a big follower of Marco, so yeah. He was on about the default browser was set to Chrome. No, if you've got Chrome installed, any links you open will automatically open in Chrome.
Right.
And users complained because they've got Chrome installed, but they want to use Safari, and you had to create a whole UI to add the option just to change default browsers.
Exactly. Yeah. And
Interesting.
he actually labored over that point. I mean, there was a whole, I don't know. He gave like a whole 30-minute conversation over it, I think, didn't he? It was where he was just like the valid points of adding and not adding a UI or an UI element and where it should go and all those types of things. So it's can be excruciatingly painful to add something to an app and do it well.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay, so it's on iOS right now. Do you plan to put it on Android?
I've been looking into it, and it's just kind of there's a few differences between iOS. I mean, the biggest thing is the push notification and working around that. So I'm just actually kind of right now in the research phase and seeing what it would take to put it on an Android.
Gotcha.
So
okay, and so the one question I thought is going to be one of the things that everybody asks is why did you price it at $199?
Because I didn't know any better. I mean, with the app category, or with the weather category, sorry, similar apps were about the same price. So that's where that pricing came from. I read a really good series of articles recently, though, on jury.me. And this guy, I don't remember his name, but he goes into just App Store pricing, actually Mac App Store pricing, so for like full-fledged Mac apps. But just the theory about pricing and, researching what your competitors are doing, and then sort of, it's really interesting. Like he does this thing. Well, I'll just let you check it out. But it's a great series of articles about pricing.
Okay.
But I really just looked at comparable apps.
Okay. Send me a link to that, and I'll put it in the show notes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be great. A great read.
Yeah.
I'm always interested in how people choose that dollar figure, because, I mean, obviously you have costs. You said you're paying for the access to the weather API, and of course, I mean, let's not forget the time and energy it takes to build and maintain something like that. But once you get past certain dollar figures, numbers are kind of, you don't really, is something worth 99 cents or is it worth $1.99? I mean, it just it kind of, it's up to the market as to what they'll pay for. So
I mean, I've heard some things about pricing that this is my first time doing an app, so I've been learning a lot. But one of the things another app developer told me that I thought was actually really interesting is that when you price your app at $2 versus $1, is that it attracts a completely different audience, and that audience, the people that are buying a $2 app, consider your app more, and they'll do more research before they actually purchase the app. So when they do go ahead and purchase your app, they're sort of more invested in your app at that point, and they're sort of more into it already. So he noticed with his apps, when he charged $2 versus $1, his reviews actually went up. And I thought that was a really interesting point.
Yeah, no, that is an interesting point, and I think it does. I used to have a product that I had a low price point for, and then I had a high price point for, and what I saw was that fewer people bought the higher price point thing, but it was, like you say, it was just a different group of people, a completely different group of people, and so support for the lower price product was more than for the higher price product, right? It was more labor intensive to support the lower price product than the higher price product. So, and I think it varies depending on the audience that you're talking about. So.
Yeah, and I think with weather it's hard because at the end of the day, unless someone is like totally passionate about your app, at the end of the day they can get weather from like any source at all. So it's really hard to place a premium on the weather app in general.
Well, so one of the things I noticed is that you tell a consistent story, though. Going back to the whole design thing and all that, you on the climateclockapp.com website, you have a very, very modern, very good-looking website, and it tells the story of the app, and it features, and you have the trailer video that you put together, or we'll get to that in a minute, but whoever put that together is consistent. It tells a quality story. And then when you look at the screenshots for the app and the design of the app and all that kind of stuff like that, it tells a quality story. So I think that all adds up to, well, this app is $1.99, and all of these things are consistent with the app being a quality thing. Therefore, it makes makes overcoming objections that much easier.
Thanks. Yeah, I hope so. I certainly hope so. That's the case.
Yeah. I think some people get kind of disillusioned when they say, "Well, I built this app and I put it out there, and my sales aren't doing very well, or whatever." And it's like, well, going back to that conversation. Well, what marketing did you do?
Yeah.
What does your website look like? What's the icon look like? I mean, those things all fit together.
I find with this app, it was probably marketing alone was about 50%, or maybe 1/3 of the time that I put into this project.
Right.
So marketing is huge, and if I hadn't done the marketing and everything, I was lucky enough to have marketing, I think, built and designed into the app. It's an app where you constantly share your weather with other people, and so it's constantly self-marketing itself. Whereas really with this app, the marketing comes from, there's word of mouth, but the large majority of it comes from press that it's received.
Yeah,
so,
and I see.
And that's not something that you can do, forever. It's really, you kind of just get your press hits, and you try to write it while you can, but. Yeah,
eventually you reach that "what have you done for me lately" sort of thing. So maybe I dropped off slightly there, but what have you done to market the app besides, like you said, press coverage and things like that? Have you done anything on Facebook, or have you done anything try to SEO your site, all those types of things that people do?
Yeah, I have a Facebook page. I have all kind of the normal things, the video and the website and all that stuff. But by far, if you look at the sales, the biggest sales have come from press. Okay. So that was the biggest thing I did, was just trying to, email reporters that I thought might have an interest in the app and get them interested in the app and hopefully get them to write about it.
Gotcha. So I mentioned your promotional trailer before. So did you do that yourself as well, or did you farm that out to somebody?
Yeah, that's something I did myself. Yeah.
So you're just a Renaissance man.
I'm more just I like to save money where I can. So.
Yeah, right. Yeah, okay. That's not a bad deal. If you have the skills and have the talent, do it. Maybe you should be charging for promotional trailers. Because I thought that was something that was professionally done. So
thanks a lot. Yeah.
So kudos there. So I noticed that you use Vimeo, and we asked the Aptamen, who does video trailers and things like that professionally. We asked them why they used Vimeo, and they told us that it was because they could replace the video, and you don't get that option on other video hosting sites. So why did you use Vimeo?
I used Vimeo because I was actually kind of fearful that, so I had put the video up on YouTube before I put it up on Vimeo, okay. But YouTube doesn't let you control the thumbnail. And the thumbnail it had of the video was like super grainy. It just looked really low quality. And I was actually fearful that if I was lucky enough to get a reporter to write about it, and one of the really big press hits I got was through Lifehacker. And what Lifehacker had done with previous apps is they had posted the video at the top of the page. And I felt like it was just really, not only, I don't know if that would maybe discourage the Lifehacker reporter to write about it if they're going to post like a low quality thumbnail of YouTube on the top of the page. I also just thought it was important to be able to control that thumbnail that was been shown to people. Okay. So that was actually my reason.
Okay. Yeah. Excellent. Yeah. Devil's in the details, right? I mean, that's all the finer points of, like I said before, the consistency of your message. So definitely. Yeah.
I mean, I think it goes to the point earlier too. If you kind of you're charging people $1.99 an app in today's age, and you have a YouTube video that looks kind of cheap, it doesn't really. It's kind of like, oh, why am I paying you $1.99? The story isn't as consistent.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's not that the value isn't still there. It's just that the perception, how it's perceived.
Yeah.
So, have you had any issues getting ranked in the Apple stores? I mean, it's a weather, it's a weather app at its foundation. So, has that been a problem coming up to the top?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like with weather apps, again, that category is just a lot of people attack that category, or like, throw out their best weather app out there. So I think it's a really competitive category. I mean, I always kind of view it like the iTunes music charts, where, you get something that gets a lot of attention and it's kind of hot for a little while, and then it sort of falls off the charts. So, I mean, that's a trend I noticed. And actually, my next app that I'm working on, I guess, I mean, the thing I really learned from this app is that for the marketing of the app, you really have to build in some type of self-sustaining marketing within the app. So that's something that I'm trying to do with my next app.
Gotcha.
So.
Gotcha. So gotcha. Yeah. Rather than have to push it along, you want it to push itself along.
Yeah, because I think at the end of the day, I mean, realistically, you have 700,000 apps in the App Store. You'll get a certain number of sales through App Store discovery, like, just people searching for keywords and all that stuff. I noticed, honestly, like when the app was featured in the weather category, I think right now it's as one of the featured apps in there. Mm-hmm. That really didn't have an effect on sales like I thought it would. The sales were really driven from external sources, again, like with press hits, word of mouth, that type of thing. And I think it's really important to have, if you want an app that will consistently sell for, like, let's say a 6 to 12 month period, I really feel like the marketing has to be internally generated, like a game where you can share on Facebook, like Candy Crush, right. Where you bring in that social aspect and it's self-marketing. Like Candy Crush, by far, their marketing is all coming just from the way the game is built.
Have you ever considered doing any kind of branding, offering branding to advertisers or anything like that? Or, like
a rev share type of thing with approaching like another.
Company I have two competing thoughts in my brain, which often happens. One is, how Pandora, I don't know, I haven't been on their site in ages, but how Pandora has, they do the background, and it can be branded to a particular advertiser.
I see, like advertising, yeah.
Yeah, have you ever thought about doing something like that, approaching someone and saying, hey, I'll brand it? For your brand, for XYZ, for a number of dollars?
I actually haven't considered that, but that's an interesting question.
The other,
or tie it into like maybe like your local donut shop pops up when you're actually in the morning.
Oh, proximity.
Well, just that, or like it's 50 degrees, you're in New York, and I don't know, maybe a good cup of Joe is a good way to start the day. It's before 9, right?
Yeah. Oh, that would be, yeah.
The whole background could just change. You could just call Dunkin' Donuts and say, hey, for $500,000, I'll put you every single morning on every single one of these apps.
Yeah. Something like that, yeah. Or if you, the other competing thought that was in my head was completely branding it to something else, right? So, I don't have a good example at the moment, and it's probably a bad example, but let's just say Strong, right? If you can get over the Armstrong, whatever the debacle there, but let's say Strong comes along and you say, okay, look, I'll brand it for you, and it's customized for you. You could ride their coattails, so to speak, I guess, as a marketing vehicle for your app, right? So
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, I think it's a really good idea.
I think the other way, though, I mean, since you're getting the data from Weather Underground and you're paying them right now, what about approaching them and saying, how would you like to be the owner of the app, and just sell it to them?
Yeah, I actually haven't considered that. I've reached out to them just on Twitter. I tweeted them. Yeah, I mean, that's an idea to consider. I wonder if they might be interested. I know they do have their own Weather Underground app, so I don't know, what their objectives are.
Nah, it's crap.
As far as that.
It's crap. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it, but I can tell you, it's just.
You just know. You know.
They need this one. They need this one.
Sorry. Did you design the website yourself, or did you take it from a WordPress template, or?
Yeah, I designed the website myself.
What's
My
nice?
my background is actually more. This was the first app I had built. I had built like mobile websites, but my background is actually more in like the video and website side of things. So those were actually easier for me than learning how to do the app for the first time.
Matthew, are you talking about how it? Are you talking about how it's responsive? How it does the whole scales down to the?
Yeah, it looks very similar to. I use elegant themes a lot for websites that I put up, and it looked a lot like one of the ones there, but it obviously
okay.
different. But it looks nice, really, really nice.
Yeah.
Without having to hang them together, you know.
Yeah, I thought that was great that when you go to climateclockapp.com on your mobile device, that it actually scales for the mobile device. I was like, that's pretty smart. Right? If you're going to sell mobile apps, the app that the site that promotes the mobile app should be mobile friendly.
So, question for you, though, following that up as part of the marketing stuff that I've been playing with. Mine does the same thing. It does the responsive scale, right?
Yeah.
But did you do the meta entry for Apple to where when an Apple device goes to your website, that it puts up the banner for Apple? So
Yeah, that little banner on top.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. It was yeah, I thought that was important. And
It's really easy.
It's really, yeah, it's one line of code. I mean, the one disadvantage of that is, you can also sign up as your own affiliate on Linkshare. So right now, if people go to the mobile version of that site and they click on the top part, that just goes directly to Apple, and you're not going to get your own affiliate 5% cut of that. Versus if they click on one of the other buttons, you'll at least get your 5% cut of that. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if that was the right choice to make, but I think it's good. It's more usable. I'd rather them buy the app and not get 5% than not get the sell at all. So
Yeah, it's because it's right up at the top of the screen, right? I mean here you've got right there. You've got a big old open button right at the top of the screen. So
yeah, exactly.
But yeah, I think I've heard that several times. Other people using affiliate links in their apps. Even for their own stuff. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty much just free money on the table. If you go to linkshare.com and you sign up and you just sign yourself up, you can get a code. So every time someone clicks on a button that you have to go buy the app, at least you get another 5%. So, and it's pretty easy to do.
Dean, are you doing that? Have you set any of that stuff up?
I haven't, no. I really need to get around to doing that, to be fair. Get some affiliate links working. I've got the little smart banners at the top.
Come on, man! You just got a day job and a family and all that kind of stuff. You need to get on this stuff.
Now this weekend I've been busy. Because my indie account's now upgraded to a pro account. I've been busy converting my app to Android and also sign up to all these different developer accounts for Google Play and Amazon and Samsung and trying to sort that out, and that's a big nightmare.
Yeah, taking it. Getting everything set up to support the cross-platform isn't outside of Corona is not as user-friendly as it could be, right?
Yeah, so I spent about half a day in Corona just getting the app ready, and now it's ready. I've been spending about a whole weekend just trying to sort the developer accounts out, and it's
right. Yeah, it would be great if that was
one thing that Corona doesn't do is set all the stores up.
Yeah,
sounds like we got the topic for a future show.
Right, or a product, right? If we could have submit it here and then it goes all to all these different places, that would be great.
Yeah,
that would be awesome.
A Chinese app store as well but the China Mobile one, because they've got an English developer portal to submit your app to. Because Google Play doesn't have any real presence in. So I've been looking at that. I'm not sure if Corona supports it or not.
Okay.
And I'm not sure what kind of. But apparently they target they've got a third of all Android devices.
Yeah. Send me an email on that. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, sure.
It's interesting. Okay, cool. All right. Well, I think we're kind of running out of time here, so I wanted to ask, what is Orange, or Oringe?
Oh, Orange. Orange is my design shop that I've had. for about actually over 10 years now. So really started out doing web design and all that good stuff, and recently obviously focusing on the apps a little bit more.
Excellent.
So,
Excellent. So is that where people can contact you for all these great things that you've been doing with the app?
yeah.
Okay.
I think it's going there.
All right. And where can they find more information about Climate Clock?
ClimateClockApp.com, and on the store if they search for Climate Clock.
Excellent. Yeah, definitely. I recommend that you do go out and look at the app, check it out. If you're into weather for any reason at all, even if it's just to figure out what coat you want to wear or shorts that you want to wear now that the season's changed, definitely recommend it for sure. So, all right, well let's announce our T-shirt winner for this week, and then we'll bounce on out of here. So this week's T-shirt winner is Justin Gills, and Justin heard about Corona Geek on Twitter. He followed us on Twitter, and then he went over to coronageek.com/giveaway and entered for a chance to win a Corona Labs T-shirt. And so I'm going to be emailing Justin here in just a little bit, find out what size shirt that he wants to wear, and I'm going to send it out to him this week. So if you want an opportunity for a chance to win a Corona Labs T-shirt, then all you have to do is follow us on some form of social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, Google+, YouTube, and then go on over to coronageek.com/giveaway and register for a chance to win. And if your name is called, we'll send you a T-shirt. It's pretty simple. So that's it. Anybody else got anything before we leave today? Any announcements? Any big stuff? Any? No? Once? Going once? Twice?
I think
Matthew?
we're all out today.
You're all good?
Yeah.
All right. Well, Ben, thank you for being here with us today. Thank you for sharing so much information about your app, and
thanks for having me.
Hey, thanks for creating something so cool. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks for watching. Thanks for being here with us. It's going to be another great week. So join us next Monday, 12 p.m. PST. We'll be right back here talking about mobile app development using Corona SDK. Until then, happy coding.